Hello everyone and welcome back to coverage of our 275th YCS in Lille. I'm here to catch up with two of our World Championship finalists from Master Duel, Josh and Emre. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for doing this interview with us. So I guess first and foremost, congratulations. You've gone to the World Championships again and come second place. How did that feel?
Pretty good. Now that it's been a couple of weeks, obviously we would have really liked to get the back-to-back win, but can't really be upset about winning last year and getting second this year. It's been a pretty amazing year for us. So,
I mean, yeah, it's a fantastic achievement. So like, obviously you guys won previous year. Going into it, do you feel like a lot of pressure because you won? Do you feel you've got nothing to prove? You don't have to qualify when you've won, you get straight in again. Do you feel like that's more of a thing? Do you feel like you less pressure? What's it like?
I don't know. We might have individual answers on this with how we felt, but for me it was a little bit of both. Like in some ways, I felt less pressure because we have done it already. Like it was something that like no one was expecting us to win twice in a row. Not even myself was like, yeah, we gotta win twice in a row. Like that's not something you should ever expect yourself to do, I feel like. But then again, there was always this feeling of like, but what if we did? You know, like what if we were able to do that? Wouldn't that be amazing? And like, you just have to keep telling yourself, you know, what we did last year was already really, really good. And like, if it doesn't happen again, then that's also okay. So like, in some ways there was less pressure, in others, obviously there was still a lot, but that's how I felt at least. I don't know how you felt.
I mean, there was still pressure. I mean, if you play roles, there's always pressure involved. But there was definitely less pressure than last year because we've done it already. And we know how like everything works. Like nothing was new to us. So I felt like that made it a bit easier for us to like play and go forward.
And when you saw it was the same final again, did you feel like almost like it was fate, like I'm going to do it again? Or were you like, maybe these are the toughest competitors, so?
I mean, if anything, it was fate for them to get the redemption story, I guess. So like, I don't know. It's a crazy feeling to know that like almost this kind of deja vu kind of feeling that you just walk up the stage and it's just like the same people across from you and all that kind of stuff. I don't like to interpret much into it. Like it's like it's gonna happen the same way as last year, or now it's their turn to win. No, we just tried our best. We tried to do the back-to-back. It wasn't meant to be, but it's a pretty crazy story to tell for both of us now, I guess. Like none of us walks away being the two-time loser or the two-time winner. Both of us just both of the teams just share the story of, you know, back-to-back Worlds finals. So I think that's all right.
And do you feel like they're your competitors or they're your friends now? You know, do you feel like the competition or the?
It's always both. With those kind of questions, it's always both. People always expect it to be this crazy rivalry kind of story, like I don't like your enemies now or whatever. It's not like that. Like we get along quite well, and yeah. That's it.
Well, that's good to hear that you're still friends even after, you know, having some tough fights.
If anything, these are the kind of things that make you become friends. Like with like my personal story with Billy from 2016 and 17, where it was almost the same kind of thing, but with YCS finals, right? Where like I lost to Billy in the finals of YCS Bochum and then beat him in the finals of YCS Prague, the very next YCS. And Billy is one of my closest friends in the game since then. You know, he wasn't before then. So yeah, these kind of stories are pretty cool, I feel like. And like how I walked away from that story with winning the second one after not having won the first, I know how it feels to get that redemption kind of thing. And so in that sense, I can definitely, like, I feel for them. Like I would have felt very bad for them if they lost two in a row. So that's why I'm saying it feels fair that we're both walking away with one win each, and it's just like good for everyone like that.
And that's very noble of you. Emre, would you have felt bad for them if you'd won again, or do you think you'd have been all in the glory?
I mean, there are always two sides of the coin, right? I mean, you yourself feel great, but if there's a winner, there's always a loser. So I feel like us winning once and them winning once is good. Hopefully there'll be a third match, maybe in the future. And then we can decide who's the true champion.
Excellent. So some of our keener viewers may have noticed that there's only 2 out of 3 of you here right now. So where is Quanto?
Yeah, where's Quanto?
He's here. He's in Lille. But not at the venue. He is playing the Duel Cup today.
So what I'm feeling is for him, second place, absolutely not good enough. You know, I've got to practice, I've got to qualify again, I've got to go back again, I've got to win.
You see, that's what you'd think, but at the same time, he is here, he is going to play the YCS, so he is not going to have the time to play the entirety of the second stage. For some reason, he just wants that grind set. He's on that grind set. He just wants to play the first day of the Duelist Cup today. So I don't know if I think he's already in France, but just like apparently in the hotel just playing the Duelist Cup.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna show up later or maybe join us for dinner or something, but at the moment he's just playing Master Duel, yeah.
Well, you got to respect him. Clearly, like, he loves the game.
Yes.
And you know, there's that old saying, like, the more you practice, like, the luckier you get. You know, qualifying again, so you guys obviously came second this time round, so you don't get that automatic entry in, you've got to work again to get it. Do you feel like that's a target of yours, or?
So for me personally, I've really been feeling like I've been wanting to go back to try and qualify for the TCG World Championships. But that's the cool thing about being just a Yu-Gi-Oh player in general. I don't limit myself to just like TCG or Master Duel. I will probably just play TCG events, but if there's ever a Duelist Cup that doesn't like fall on the same weekend as a YCS or something, I will play that as well. So kind of just like see if one of them works. But if I could just choose, I would try to qualify for TCG, simply because, you know, we've done it in Master Duel in last year, but have never done it in TCG. So. But if we get to go back for Master Duel, that'll obviously be amazing too. So I am also going to try for future Duelist Cups.
And Emre, what about you? What's your target for the season?
Yeah, I got one more in me. I want to go back to Worlds. Doesn't matter which Worlds.
You say that every time.
I said I got one more in me every time, yeah. So I don't know. I think I would prefer Master Duel because the 3v3 environment is really cool. But I never played the TCG World, so that would be also a great experience. I guess I'll take whatever I can get, but yeah, I got one more in me.
So talk to us a little bit about the deck building aspect, because that's really exciting for me, especially someone, you know, is more familiar with the TCG, and then you come over and you play this where you've got to build your deck now. You're only allowed 3 copies or however many is on the Forbidden Limited list per team, which is crazy. So how did you feel building that deck? Obviously you did it last year as well. Did you feel like the experience helped?
I would say so. I feel like we walked out of last year's World Championship being really happy with how our lineup went, because we went into it like also just like first try, you know. That was the first time we experienced that kind of format, and there was no like testing ground for us. And so we got to experience how that worked last year with like what kind of shared card makes sense, what kind of decks make sense together, like how do you construct a lineup? Do you like try to, because each player has to have 2 decks, but you're never forced to play both of your decks. You could, in theory, only play one of your deck the entire event, which is what Jack did last year almost with the Tearlament deck, because we were like, okay, Tearlament is the best deck in the format, we're just going to have him play Tearlament pretty much every single round. You need a very specific reason to switch off of Tearlament, for example, right? But like, there's other decks where maybe there are matchups in the format where you're like, no, I don't want to play that deck into that matchup, so I want to have a secondary deck that makes sense into that. And so all these kind of thoughts that go into like which kind of decks you pair together, which kind of cards you need to share, because there are shared cards like that, the exception to the rule basically, right? Like, which for everyone is just obviously going to be like Maxi and Ash Blossom, but the third one is always the one where you got some wiggle room in what you want to pick. Yeah, long story short, I think it's a very interesting format, but the experience from last year, I feel like definitely helped.
And do you think if you'd played the same event again, you'd have picked almost the same deck list, or did you think there was anything?
Well, I know he would. He loved the Centurion deck. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we played. I did think that throughout the tournament, from what I've seen, Jesse's Tearlament deck was also really, really strong, which is something that we hadn't considered for, because Jack was playing the more standard, quote-unquote, 40-card like Tearlament deck, and Jesse was playing like the all-over-the-place 60-card, you know, Dotscaper was in there and all that kind of stuff, version of the deck, which just had more, I feel like, high roll potential. Which maybe that is something we should have considered. It was just like a matter of, we said like, Jack, what version of tier do you feel most comfortable with? Just play that one. And that was the one he liked. So ultimately, no regrets in that regard. But I think Jesse's Tearlament deck was also really good.
That's fair. So You told me you have to have 2 different decks. So sometimes you're playing against someone, you think, oh, I don't want to play one of those decks with my deck A, so I'll play with deck B. Did you ever have any good mind games like that? Did you ever think, oh, maybe I won't play deck A, but then they won't play their deck A, and you're playing this infinite game of rock, paper, scissors in your head or something like that?
That was especially, I feel like, true for me, because the other guys didn't really have sort of mind gaming decks that really want to catch a specific matchup but like don't care about others. I had that Labyrinth deck that was specifically made to counter Yubel decks in Master Duel, and so it was like if any one of my teammates plays against someone who's playing Yubel, which is a very powerful deck, so we don't expect them to switch off of it, I can just bring that Labyrinth deck into them, which was honestly, it was like tailor-made to beat that matchup, and it does beat that matchup like almost every time. And so the problem is, as you play the tournament, obviously people learn about what kind of decks people are playing, because all of the stuff is available in the Master Duel client. People can watch the games, and so people will know at some point, oh, Josh has the Fire King deck and the Labyrinth deck. And so I was like always caught in this like quote-unquote mind game where if someone had Yubel, they could potentially know that I'm playing a Labyrinth deck. But in top 4 it actually worked out, because one of our Japanese opponents had a Labyrinth deck, had a Yubel deck rather, and I played the Labyrinth deck because I felt like their secondary deck was not good enough into my Fire King deck, so they wouldn't queue that. And I got it off, and they suffered through my Labyrinth deck with their Yubel deck, and they did not win. So yeah.
And Emre, what 2 decks did you bring?
I brought Centurion and Flandries. So the idea was to play Centurion against every deck except the Fire deck, like Fire King or Snake Eye, because the matchup is not that great. The Beast skills don't get you a lot of value. So I was trying to figure out a deck that beats the Fire deck consistently. And as a Flu player in the TCG, we came up with a Flu list that's pretty good against the Fire King deck, which was the more popular Fire deck. And every time when I played against the Fire player, it was often the player 1, the team captain, often played Fire King. So I played against him often in the last round because of how the matchups work. I knew, okay, against that person I had to switch from to Flandries, and against the others I'm just queuing my Centurion deck, and that worked throughout the entire tournament.
And did you successfully identify all of the Fire King players before you had to play them? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, because none of my opponents game 1 played Fire King, so I knew either Josh or Quanto played against them, so I knew who it was. And their second deck often was weak into Centurion, and I don't think there's much of a reason to switch from Fire King. So every time I queued Flu, I played against Fire King except once, where he didn't play Fire King, but both of his decks were also weak into Flu, so that also worked out.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you had to share like a lot of information between you as you're playing. Like, so one person's played someone playing Fire King, you go and say, okay, he's playing Fire King, you need to queue your Flu deck. How was that? What was that like? Because I mean, not everyone, especially over here in Europe, we've not had any of these fun 3v3 YCSs yet.
Yeah.
What's it like playing as a team together?
It's a really cool experience, especially like you said. I've never done it in the TCG here in Europe. I've never traveled to one of the NA team YCSs. It is something that we were used to from last year. Obviously, like you gotta learn how to focus on your own game and learn when you can take the time to look at the other people's games, because they will like ask questions like, do you think I should do this or that, which is a question that is not always easy to answer when you're not playing the game yourself. You haven't followed the entire flow of the game. You don't know what kind of cards the opponent has already shown or what kind of cards have already been used this turn. Like you look at the board state and you're like, has that card been used yet? Has that card been used yet? What do you know about their hand? It's not that easy, but you get the hang of it, and it's also very important to know, like when you, for example, like when there's games where my opponent is starting to combo off and I know like I'm not going to be able to interrupt them, I'm not going to win this game probably, so I'm just going to zone out and focus on maybe helping the other two, because I was sitting in the middle of course, which I think is, it's just a whole different skill set. I feel like that makes it very interesting and also interactive, right? It's really cool to be able to work on game states together in a tournament setting. It's really nice.
Emre, did you feel like it helped having friends next to you when you were making decisions? Did you often ask for help or give advice?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always better to have 2 minds playing one game than 1 mind. There were some situations where I knew that Josh already won or is about to lose. So I was like, yo Josh, can you help me out? Like this situation, should I play this card? Should I not play it? And the same for Quantal. I ask him sometimes as well when he already won or lost. It helps a lot, yeah.
And did you feel like a good team together? You didn't have any fights, you just were on the same page?
Yeah, for the most part. There's nothing that comes to mind.
Well, that's fantastic. Team building. I'm very impressed. Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking time to tell everyone at home about your experience at the World Championship. And everyone at home, stay tuned. We're going to have some more fantastic coverage for you of YCS Lille.